Aging and senescence. Senescence again means becoming older. There is gerontology. Gerontology is the study of old age. So what are all the physiological changes which happens in the old age, etc. So according to Stuchler, according to him, senescence are changes. Let's write it. So senescence are the changes which occur in the post-reproductive period, and this results in a decreased survival capacity of an organism. So for every organism, right, what it is expected to do when it is born, once when it comes to the earth. Every single organism, right, grow, reach the sexual maturity, reproduce, give birth to progenies, okay, and make them a good organism, a good animal, a good human being, die. Every organism is expected to undergo this type of life. For most of the lower organisms, life after sexual maturity is very, very limited. Life after sexual maturity is very much limited. For example, there is one insect called as a mayfly. This is a mayfly. This is a small insect which is just marginally larger than a mosquito, maybe double the size of a mosquito, that's it. This insect, right, as an nymph. Nymph means N-Y-M-P-H. Nymph means an infant. Opposite to adult. It's called as a nymph. As a nymph, this lives for close to around 10 months. 10 months it lives as a nymph. And once when it attains maturity, sexual maturity, its life will be there only for 2 days. Immediately after mating, right, it will lay the eggs and it will die. It will die. There are few other cases where for male organisms, sexual life is a very limited. For example, the praying mantis. This is something, a very common insect. You might have seen it in many places, right? So for this insect, right, for the male, what happens actually during the time of mating, during the time of courtship with the female insect, the female at least 3 or 4 times, it catches hold of the male and it devours its head. It bites and eats its head. So that in most of the cases, the male dies after mating. Same is the case with honeybees. The mating actually happens in a flight called as nuptial flight. And once the mating is over, the queen bee pushes the drone bee down, and the drone will not be in a position to detach itself completely from the queen. The drone will fall down with most of its appendages on few segments getting detached from its body, and it fall down and it will die. But it is only human beings, right? At 13 or 14 years, human beings attains puberty. By 15, 16 years, right, they'll be sexually mature. But after being sexually mature, after reproducing, they still have a very long life to live, to witness their grandkids, grandkids, etc. Okay. So in every organism, right, according to Structural, senescence means, senescence, right, this sets in when or it occurs in the post-reproductive period. There sets in a decreased survival capacity. There sets in a decline. There sets in a decline, because of which, right, there will be a decrease in the survival capacity of an organism. In the survival capacity of the organism. So senescence, right, involves at least 3 important characteristics. The first important thing is the changes occurring during aging are deleterious. When an organism becomes older and older, there sets in some changes, and these changes are deleterious. Deleterious means these are something harmful, which is something which is going to do something with the survival capacity of the organism. And these deleterious changes are cumulative. These deleterious changes are cumulative. That means once get added up, and finally, right, death occurs not when all the functions of an organism becomes zero. So once when the reproductive functions are over, there sets in a decline. There are a number of deleterious changes which gets accumulated. Organ after organ will become weak and weak. And death will not occur when the function of all the organs becomes zero. Death occurs because of onset of one or two diseases which may affect the function of one or more organ that is sufficient for the death of an organism. And the process involved in this aging and senescence, right, this is common to all the organisms and this is inescapable. Inescapable consequence of getting older. So just now, right, we were discussing about fertilization, gastrulation, blastulation, cleavage. We are discussing about the formation of amnia and chorea. How fast we have reached up the final stage. Life is too short. We need to realize that with every passing day, right, our organism will become progressively will become weak. We need to realize this. So all individuals of any species, right, follow the same course. It is growth, maturity, reproduction, senescence, and death. These stages are something common for all the organisms and it is simply inescapable. No one can escape from becoming old. So once when the reproductive functions are over, there sets in a decline as I told you. See, there is something called as vegetative reproductive balance. This is very prominent in plants than in animals. That is, until the attainment of puberty and adolescent stage, there will be an increase in growth and development, etc. And once when we reach the adolescent stage, slowly the growth starts flattening out, after which there will be a decline. So, tobacco. Tobacco is a very important commercial crop in some part of the country, we know that. In tobacco, the commercial part of the plant is the leaves. So a farmer here, right, wants a bigger leaf. There is no need for him to think about the seeds. So what they do when the crop, when the plant grows, he'll be providing a lot of manures, irrigation, etc. So more number of leaves will continue to come. On one fine day when the plant grows and when the inflorescence sets in, the farmers, right, if they allow these flowers to grow continuously, that will affect the vegetative growth of the plant. So the reproductive phase, right, will grow at the cost of the vegetative phase. So what they will do, they will prune and they will cut this, they will chop this off so that the leaves will further grow large. So they may get more yield. Okay. Similarly, in human beings also, there sets in a decline after the reproductive phase. So once when the reproductive functions are over, there sets in a decline, and as a result, right, adaptability to the environment decreases and susceptibility to the disease increases. Susceptibility to diseases. Adaptability to the environment decreases and susceptibility to the diseases increases. Let me explain you one important thing here. There is something called as disease triangle. For a disease to affect an organism, a host organism, there are three things. One is the environment, on the other side is the host organism, and another side is the pathogen. The pathogen. See, for a disease to occur, the environment should be favorable. The pathogen should be virulent, and the host should be susceptible. If any one particular thing is not working here, then the pathogen cannot think about creating a disease for the host organism. When we are young, we will be least susceptible to a number of diseases. But as we grow up, our adaptability or our ability to cope up with the environment, with the pathogens, right, declines. So in the same environment itself, a pathogen can create disease to us when we become older. Okay. The senescence, right, it is a 6-stage process which starts from the molecular level. So it starts at a molecular level. So first what happens? First what happens, there will be a molecular damage. So maybe this is, what is this? This is the endoplasmic reticulum. The role of endoplasmic reticulum is the proteins synthesized here will be further processed by the endoplasmic reticulum. So it is these proteins, right, which acts as our hormones, our enzymes, etc. So there may be some molecular damage here, and this molecular damage, right, may result in an error or some problem in the further processing of the proteins. So suppose if the further processing of the proteins produces an enzyme. So let that enzyme be responsible for some digestion. Okay. So now what happened? There is a molecular damage. And this molecular damage, right, may create some impaired subcellular function within the cell, function of the endoplasmic reticulum, right? It becomes a problem now. So first stage is molecular damage. This may lead to impaired subcellular function. So part of the function of the cells becomes faulty. And when this continues, right, the cell itself will become dysfunctional after some time. This may lead to impaired cellular function. Cellular function. Next, suppose if we take a tissue, say a pancreas. So the pancreas is made out of tissues, right? What are tissues? Again, tissues are made of number of cells. So one cell here becomes dysfunctional. Another cell will also become dysfunctional. Slowly write down this impaired cellular function may result in impaired tissue and organ function. So when pancreas becomes, or when the function of pancreas get affected, then what will happen? There will be no control over the blood sugar in our body. It may shoot up, it may go down. And with very high blood sugar level, what actually happens? All the organs in our body, right? All the tissues in our body may also start becoming weak. And as a result, right, this lowers the efficiency of the organism. If somebody becomes diabetic, right, ultimately that will affect their kidneys. So slowly, right, that will decrease the efficiency of the organism, and further, finally, it will increase the probability of dying. So, aging, right, at the senescence, the changes actually starts at the molecular level. So, molecules in the cells, when it gets damaged, right, that impacts the subcellular function. With the passage of time, the cell itself becomes dysfunctional. And when it happens to more number of cells, it spreads to the tissues, and the tissues become dysfunctional. As a result, right, one organ may become weak, and that will decrease the efficiency of that organism, and finally, it increases the chances, the probability that an organism may die. I think this is sufficient about aging and senescence. Aging and senescence. So, like, there are few theories which deals with aging, which we broadly classify into cellular and extracellular theories of aging. Theories of aging. So broadly, we classify this into cellular and number 2, extracellular theories. Excuse me. Cellular and extracellular theories of aging. So first let us discuss the cellular theories of aging. In this, the first theory is genetic blueprint theory or half-life limit. So Half-Life, what he did, he took cell from the lung fibroblast, some cells from actively dividing cells from the human lungs. He took it and he cultured it artificially. So how we can culture a cell artificially? Create an aseptic condition. Aseptic means where no microbes will be there. Generally we do it in an operation theater, right? They'll treat it using ultraviolet rays, And further they use number of chemicals down to make it sure that that the entire environment will be aseptic. So we have there are number, we can make it in a number of ways. There is also something called as UV chamber, ultraviolet chamber, where we can create an aseptic condition. In this, right, the cells will be, first what they will do, they'll take a petri dish and they'll fill it with some medium. These mediums are rich in nutrients and they will add the cell and they allow the cell to multiply. So what Mayfly did, he took cells from human lung fibroblast and he found that the average number of times the cell is going to divide, right, around 50 times. Every cell rate divides up to 50 times, after which it couldn't divide. Human lung fibroblast. He then took a similar cell from some other lower organism, say from a rabbit. These cells, right, managed to divide only some 10 times. Sorry, not 10 times, so 5 times. He took a cell from a dog. It managed to divide some 20 times. So there are few cells which managed to, for example, in human lung fibroblast, right, the cells managed to divide 50 times. Few cells, right, managed to divide even beyond 50, 60, 70, 80. But he found those cells are not normal cells, but those cells are abnormal cancer cells. So he came to a conclusion that the age of an organism correlates with the number of times the cell can divide. So how many times a cell can divide? That roughly correlates with the age of an organism. He further inferred that there is a biological clock. There is a biological clock within a cell which decides how many times a cell can divide. Even last year for medical sciences, right, the Nobel Prize was given to one important discovery about the biological clock in the cells, but that biological clock has nothing to do with what Mayfly is saying. So that biological clock deals with the circadian rhythm. Hope you know about the circadian rhythm. It is circadian rhythm, right, which actually decides how we are sleeping and when we wake up. Light plays a major role in circadian rhythm. Evening when sun sets, all the animals are supposed to live in darkness. This darkness produces some change in our system and it brings us sleep. And next day morning when sun rises, when lights come up, we'll also wake up. So this is the circadian rhythm. And the circadian rhythm has to do a lot of things with our physiology, our proper, say, with the circadian rhythm, right, even there will be a change in our breathing rate, our heart beating rate, blood pressure, change in blood pressure, etc. And every day, right, we are designed in such a way that it is supposed to happen. But now what we are doing, we are still living in a bright light until night 9, 10 o'clock. And even after that, after going to bed, we are not keeping our mobile phones down. We continue to watch something in our mobile phone. That means light continues to pass into our eyes. This very seriously affects the circadian rhythm. Many says now we are turning on the night mode. By turning on the night mode, you can just minimize the impact, that's it. But the damage, right, we cannot change the damage which it is creating. So at least these are some very important, this is how we are deviating from the natural biology, how we are designed to live. We are deviating from that. So beyond 6 o'clock, beyond 7 o'clock in the evening, we are supposed to live in darkness. But artificially, we are changing the way in which we are supposed to live. And this has the capability of influencing our physiology. And this may also affect the process of aging and senescence. So keep in mind. So try to keep your gadgets down beyond at least 8 o'clock. Do not watch television. Do not watch, do not see anything from your mobile phones. You can simply say, we cannot do it. Okay. So Havlik found that there is one biological clock, and this biological clock is situated within the nuclei of a cell. Within the nuclei, right? The clock is located somewhere, and it is this clock which decides how many times a cell is going to divide. So lifespan of an organism, right? We can correlate that with a number of times a cell can divide. So a number of times an average cell can divide, right? That limit is called as Havlik limit. Havlik limit is the average limit of the number of times a cell can divide. Okay. So greater the number of times a cell divide, greater will be the lifespan of the organism. Got it? It's a very simple theory. So next theory is the theory of free radical reaction. This is something a very important theory. This is. Theory of free radical reaction. See, oxygen O2, right? Generally, O2 in ours is at least inside our body, right? Oxygen will not occur as oxygen. It will be as, okay, whatever we think. Most of the time, it will be as H2O. Most of the time, it will be as CO2, etc. And very rarely, right, O2 occur as a free radical. That means free oxygen which is not combined with other atoms. There are few enzymatic reactions in our body which produces number of such free radicals. Some free radicals are present in our body, no doubt. There are few enzymatic reactions. These free radicals, right, it reacts with a few enzymes and it produces a highly reactive superoxide radical. So the free oxygen, the free radicals found in our body, right? There are few enzymatic reactions which actually makes this O2 a hyperreactive, a superoxide radical of O2. This superoxide radical, right? This reacts with unsaturated lipids. Lipids means fat, right? Fat. And this reaction, right, the reaction between the superoxide radical of oxygen and these unsaturated lipids, the superoxide radicals of oxygen are hyperreactive. This produces a substance called as lipofuscin. I forgot one in the reaction. See, O2 by some enzymatic reaction produces superoxide radical. This superoxide radical of O2, right, this reacts with water and it produces hydroperoxyl radical. That is HO2. I missed it, there is a hydroperoxyl radical. This hydroperoxyl radical, right, HO2, this reacts with unsaturated lipids. And it produces a substance called as lipofuscin. Are you okay with this lipofuscin, how it is formed in your system? This lipofuscin, right, it's a very hard and tough substance that easily, right, it won't get washed away. Even acids cannot digest this lipofuscin. And this lipofuscin, right, what it does, it actually clogs the intracellular spaces. These are the intercellular spaces. Intercellular spaces. So these are very, very important in our body because even 40% of our body is made out of these intercellular spaces. These are occupied by water and some other fluids. See, this plays a very major role in the transportation of nutrients into the cell. As well as during cellular metabolism, a number of waste will be produced. So the waste produced during the cellular metabolism, right, will be excreted here, and this will be carried away by the fluids in the intracellular spaces. So if the intracellular spaces are healthy, then very easily nutrients will move into the cell and waste will move out of the cell. Waste will move out of the cell. This substance which I told you, right, is lipofuscin. This is a hard substance, and what it does sometimes, it actually clogs the intracellular spaces. It gets deposited here. As a result, right, the active movement of nutrients into the cell and active movement of waste out of the cell, right, gets affected. So, in this part of the cell, right, from this side, nutrients will not go and waste cannot go out. And slowly, when this spreads, right, to the other side, this cell may die. The cell may die. Because neither nutrients can go in, nor the waste produced in the cell can move out of the cell. So this is the lipofuscin. This is the lipofuscin. To prove this, right, two scientists, Lester Packer and James R. Smith. James R. Smith. What they did, so before that, just see what is happening here in the reaction. Is this oxidation or reduction? Oxidation reaction means addition of oxygen. Reduction means elimination of oxygen. So this is an oxidation reaction where the oxygen gets utilized or get added up in this reaction. So it is an oxidation reaction. So what Lesser Packer and James Smith did, they introduced an antioxidant. So vitamin E is a natural antioxidant. They introduced this into an embryonic stem cell culture. Embryonic cell culture. That means where an embryo divides, multiplies. This very easily we can do. So even if somebody goes for an in vitro fertilization, you got to test your babies, right? In vitro fertilization. So there, what they will do after fusing the sperm and the ova, they keep that zygote in a petri dish like this, and they will keep it under an embryoscope. Embryoscope, right? That is a camera, a high definition camera, which will be recording the growth of the embryo, where the cells divide and how it becomes a blastocyst. Once when it reaches that blastocyst stage, then only they will transplant it into the uterus. So the 6 or 7 days of growth, right? That camera will show in 10 minutes. Fast, cells will divide and grow. Okay. So what Lesser Packer and James Smith did, in an embryonic cell culture like this, they have added vitamin E, a natural antioxidant. Antioxidant means this may act against the oxidation reaction. And they managed to make it sure that, see, they found that these cells, right, they multiplied 2 times more than what it happens naturally. That means they managed to find that if you add vitamin E or any antioxidant that will prevent this particular reaction, that can prevent this reaction to happen, and as a result they may prevent the formation of lipofuscin. And once when they prevent that, a healthy intracellular space can be maintained for a long time, and that's why they manage to increase the number of times the cells divide here. See, until some 10 years, see, most of our beauty creams and even few food items like the vegetable oil, rice bran oil, etc., they used to mention our product has antioxidants. So in a beauty cream, if you have an antioxidant, what that cream will do? That will prevent this oxidation reaction. As a result, it will prevent the dying of cells. Only when cells die, what happens? It creates a wrinkle in our skin. It creates a wrinkle in our skin. By adding antioxidants, we can prevent the formation of lipofuscin and we can make the skin to look glow. Even there are, say, if we prevent the formation of lipofuscin, then we can maintain a healthy intracellular spaces. That again increases the health of an organism. So but naturally we have vitamin E which deals with this. But artificially, right, even in this food which we take or in the beauty creams which we use, we can add this antioxidant. But recent researchers have proved that excessive intake of antioxidant, right, may hasten the cancer formation process. Suppose if somebody is having an oncogene, oncogenes are genes which creates cancer. There are few cancers which are genetic. This was a question in the year 2010, I think so. They asked about oncogenes. In lethal genes, we'll discuss about oncogenes also to some extent. Oncogenes. Okay. So if this gene is going to produce that cancer at the age of 50 or 55, excessive intake of these antioxidants, right, will result in this gene expressing at a very early age. At 20, 30 itself, right, they'll get the cancer. So that's why, right, some 10, 15 years back, you can see 1 in a 10 advertisement, right, related to food or beauty creams will say, we have antioxidants. We have antioxidants. But now hardly we can see anybody using the term antioxidant in any advertisement. Fine. I hope you are comfortable with the theory of a free radical reaction. Next is one interesting theory. This is an error theory. There are two types of error theories. One is a simple error theory. Another one is an error catastrophe theory. First, let us discuss about the error theory. Error theory. First, error at DNA level. So Kavita madam might have taught you about DNA, structure of a DNA. DNA is nothing very simple. What is DNA? So DNA is composed of number one, nitrogenous bases. Some nitrogen molecules, that's it, nitrogenous bases. So 4 types are there. Adenine, thymine, guanine, cytosine. Okay. Then number 2, a pentose sugar. And third one, a phosphate molecule. Very simple. Only these forms of the DNA. Okay. So the nitrogenous bases, right? A pairs with T. So it continues. A pairs with T. T pairs with A. G pairs with C. This will be connected to one pentose sugar. And there will be one phosphate molecule here. One more phosphate molecule this side. Now we get a chain, right? It binds to form a double helical structure. This is DNA. Error at DNA level. See, suppose you just consider one DNA strand like this. A DNA undergoing replication. Kavita madam, I taught you about replication, transcription, translation, and protein synthesis. Here it should be only T. Here it should be only T. And here, suppose if it unbinds. You know, there will be one enzyme here called as helicase, which splits the DNA. Okay. Suppose in one strand becomes T, 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 C, G. Here the enzyme polymerase, right, will be here. This will immediately, that is a photocopy machine, Xerox machine. Immediately that it will make one copy of this thing, right? So it should be this copy should be T, T, T. For C, it will be G, G should be C. Suppose by mistake this T, instead of pairing here, if it pairs here, T, T, one T will go up and then the G will come here and C. This is one minor error, right? This type of error happens at replication and transcription. So this error, right, in every cell, right, this type of error keeps happening, and there will be a mechanism to deal with the error. That is repair mechanism. So the repair mechanism, right, will immediately, oh, this one, stop. Pull it further, again attach it like this. So there will be a repair mechanism which will repair this type of errors, which happens at the DNA level. And this theory states that lifespan of an animal depends upon the efficiency of the repair mechanism. So greater the efficiency of repair mechanism, greater will be the lifespan of the, longer will be the lifespan of the organism. So there are two scientists, Richard Sedlow and Ronald Hart. and Richard Setlow. So what they did, they just wanted to prove this theory, and what they did, they exposed the DNA of a few organisms into nuclear radiation. The cells were exposed to alpha, beta, gamma rays. These are known to create damage to our DNA. After that, they studied the efficiency of these cells to repair the errors. He did it among 7 organisms, and he found that human and elephant cells had a greater efficiency of repairing the damage when compared to that of the cells of rats, monkeys, sheep, etc. So it's a very simple theory. It states that greater the efficiency of the DNA repair mechanism, greater the efficiency of the DNA repair mechanism, longer will be the efficiency of lifespan of the organism. Got it? A very simple theory this is. So next theory is an error catastrophe theory. Okay. So the scientist Leslie Argel, he found that there are few errors. There are few errors within the cell which are capable of producing a number of subsequent errors. Few errors, right? They are capable of producing a number of subsequent errors. For example, if you are doing a huge mathematical calculation, and step by step you are doing. While doing this, right, you are making one small mistake. Here, for multiplication, instead of multiplication, suppose if there is 2 multiplied by 4, it should become 8, right? But instead of multiplying it, it is multiplication, but you are adding it and making it 6. So this may create an error at the first stage. And subsequently, right, everywhere instead of multiplying, if you are adding it, this error will become more. And by this stage, the error will become a very big catastrophe. Very big catastrophe. So that may kill a cell. That may result in the death of a cell. See, Robin Holliday, right, he provided evidence for this. So what he did, there is one good example for this actually. There is one enzyme called as DNA polymerase. DNA polymerase. So it's a DNA polymerase, right? Sometimes, right, this deals with the DNA replication. Sometimes, right, this produces a number of enzymes. At the same time, even DNA polymerase is influenced by few other enzymes. Sometimes some error happens in the enzymes synthesized by the DNA polymerase. As a result, right, this creates some trouble this creates some error in the DNA replication. And this error, right, will multiply many times and it becomes an error catastrophe, leading to the death of the cell. Robin Holiday, what he did, he provided some evidence for this. So what he did, he took some adult fruit flies and he fed it with a few amino acid analogs, phenylalanine and methionine. These are amino acids, phenylalanine and methionine. So there are much more to discuss about phenylalanine. Soon we'll be discussing many things about phenylalanine. So this is one chemical which actually hastens one particular disease, that is phenylketonuria. We call this PKU. So this is one genetic disease actually, phenylketonuria. And somebody, if they get the disease right, there will be an excessive excretion of phenylketones in their urine. And this is a lethal disease, in fact. But come back here. Here, right, this has nothing to do with the phenylketonuria because we are not going to test the urine of these fruit flies. This phenylalanine and methionine. But I heard about methionine, right? Methionine, there are, so try to have some idea about the essential and non-essential amino acids that they may ask you in your examination sometimes. So, cysteine, methionine. These are sulfur containing amino acids. Cysteine, and methionine. There is no need to go to the text. And now simply remember, phenylalanine and methionine are some amino acid analogs. These are amino acids. These amino acids, these are capable of creating some error at the DNA level, error for the DNA polymerase. So what Robin Holiday did, he fed these fruit flies with these amino acid analogs, and he managed to shorten the lifespan of the fruit flies. And he claimed it is because of an error catastrophe. This phenylalanine and methionine created some simple errors in the DNA, and this error managed to multiply to become an error catastrophe, which led to the decline in the lifespan of the fruit flies. Very simple, right? Okay. So next we have, these are sufficient about, these are cellular theories. Now let us discuss the extracellular theories of aging. Extracellular theories of aging. These are also called as pacemaker theories. So remember this, these are called as pacemaker theories because sometimes, right, we'll have good idea about the extracellular theories of aging. This is one stupid way by which our examiner can make your questions look very tough. Instead of asking us extracellular theories, simply they may ask you to write about the pacemaker theories of aging. Pacemaker theories of aging. Okay, so the first theory is an immunological theory. It is the very important thymus as a pacemaker. Immunity. Thymus as a pacemaker. See, there are two types of lymphocyte in our body. B lymphocyte. This is bone marrow dependent. You know where is bone marrow, right? Sometimes when people eat mutton, they ask for the mutton leg piece, where inside the bone there will be some semi-solid material present here. They will buy, cut, chew, and they will eat that matter. So this is the bone marrow. This is something very important a place because the beta lymphocytes, these are nothing but these are WBC. If you say lymphocyte, these are white blood corpuscles. White blood corpuscles. These are capable of, so this is the one which provides immunity to our body. Immunity means, see, one more thing is that before going into that, one is B lymphocyte, another one is T lymphocyte. This is thymus dependent. Thymus dependent. Suppose if there is a bulky man, so consider this as an organism. Okay, so now there are 1, 2, 3. Let it be A, let this be B, let this be C. A, B, and C are antibodies. These are lymphocytes. These are the warriors who are going to fight against the invading pathogens, which we call it as antigens. X, Y, Z. These three are the antigens. That means these are the pathogens. And these are invading here. Now let us assume A is capable of dealing with X. B has the capability to neutralize or fix the Y pathogen. And C has the capability to fix the Z pathogen. There will be no issues. If these pathogens infect the body, they will be neutralized by the immune system and there will be no disease for the individual. And suppose there is a new pathogen. This is Y1. This Y1 is invading here. B cannot deal with this Y1. But a slight modification of B, right? A slight modification of B will be capable of dealing with this XY. Here comes the role of thymus dependent lymphocytes. Let A, B, C, B, let these three, A, B, and C be bone marrow dependent lymphocytes. There will also be some other thing like M, N, and S. This M, N, and S are thymus dependent. lymphocytes. So these are capable of differentiating these bone marrow dependent lymphocytes. This N can act on B and it can produce B1, and this B1 can deal with this Y1. B1 can neutralize or fix the Y1. So the thymus dependent lymphocyte, right, it helps in the differentiation of this bone marrow lymphocytes. So it may produce B1, B2, B3, C1, C2, C3, depending upon the nature of the pathogens, depending upon the number of pathogens going to infect. So more such pathogens comes, right, there will be more differentiation of the bone marrow dependent lymphocytes into number of cells. This thymus dependent lymphocytes, right, it will help them to differentiate in such a way that they can deal with a number of pathogens. If this continues for a long time, the coronavirus might not have affected us. But the very big problem in our system is the thymus glands is here, right? It surrounds the esophagus here in this region. It surrounds the esophagus. The thymus glands which produces the thymus dependent lymphocytes, which are capable of differentiating the beta dependent lymphocytes, right? This gland which produces these will be active only until the attainment of adolescent stage, 13 or 14 years. After the attainment of adolescent stage, the thymus glands, right, starts getting atrophied. Atrophy means becoming functionless. Slowly, immediately after the attainment of adolescent stage, thymus glands loses its function, it becomes progressively dysfunctional. So remember, I still know one guy, you can say there is one mental disorder called as OCD. OCD means obsessive compulsive disorder. OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. So people who have the disease right now, the symptoms are very clear. They'll keep washing their glands. Now everybody have become a OCD. That's a different thing. They keep washing their glands. And they have yet another problem actually. They'll come out of their home, they'll lock the lock, then they'll think, oh, did I switch off that air conditioner? Did I switch off my gas stove? They'll go again, check it and come. They'll come out of the bathroom and they'll again go and see whether I switched off the taps or not. Sometimes while bathing, right, they'll wash their face. Again and again they will wash it without knowing that they have washed it earlier. Obsessive compulsive disorder. I know I had one friend, that guy, right, he used to have huge quantity of Dettol. I had no idea that Dettol had made such a huge containers. Half feet, 1 feet. What did he say? Everywhere there are microbes, and daily, right, he takes 1 glass of Dettol and he adds that in the water and he takes bath using it. Say, now only I am feeling fresh. Right? Pathogens will be there everywhere. It will be there in our hand. And the pathogens in our palm, in our fingers, it plays a major role in digestion. Digestion starts straight away in our fingers. This we call as extra-intestinal digestion. Here itself, right, microbes starts acting on the food. Okay. There are many ways, right, microbes play an important role. See here, one important thing, this Lysol, this Dettol, Lifebuoy, all these people, right, they are creating an environment saying, insects, microbes, pathogens, and they make our kids to grow in a complete aseptic condition. I still remember we as a childhood, right? We used to play here and there. During summer vacation, right? Morning, 7 o'clock, when we leave our home to breakfast, for lunch, we'll just run, have lunch, come back, we'll play until sunset. We'll be playing in the soil. Only when a kid gets exposed right now, then the T lymphocytes will act on the B lymphocytes, and B lymphocytes will further differentiate. But if you keep our kid in a very protected environment, if you keep washing, cleaning, if you do not allow your kid to go and play out anywhere, then there will be very limited beta dependent, very limited antibodies here. That's why, right, in United States and in Europe, there were more casualties due to COVID than countries in the third world. So during childhood days, we need to make it sure that the child gets exposed to a minimum amount of some pathogens so that their immune system will develop. Because beyond 14 years, right, we cannot expect the thymus to act. Beyond 14 years, right, there will be no greater differentiation of the bone marrow dependent lymphocytes. But now here it is the thymus gland which sets the phase for aging. So aging is programmed by the thymus gland. So once after 13 years, when 13 or 14 years, when the thymus gland starts atrophying, when it becomes progressively dysfunctional, there sets in a decline of our immune system. And once when our immune system becomes So once our immune system becomes weak, then we will become susceptible to the environment. We will become susceptible for pathogens in the environment, and progressively there sets in decline, which may lead to aging, senescence, and death. So it is the thymus gland which acts as a pacemaker. There is one more pacemaker theory, that is the brain as a pacemaker. Brain as a pacemaker. Here in the junction of the brain and the spinal cord, you can see it here. There are a number of chemicals which are secreted and which plays a major role in neurotransmission. The most important being catecholamine, dopamine, etc. With the passage of time, as the individual grows, there is a progressive decline in these neurochemicals. And with the decline of neurochemicals, right, what happens? Transmission of nerves, right, there is a decline in neurotransmission. As a result, right, the organs in our body won't get proper signals from the brain. And slowly that makes an organ dysfunctional. So this has been proved in many cases. For example, Parkinson's disease. Parkinson, Alzheimer, Huntington's chorea, these all are neurodegenerative diseases. These are really very pathetic diseases actually. One should not die out of Alzheimer or Parkinson. Once when the disease become progressive, people will lose their memory. There will be no neurotransmission and they will lose their memory. They will even forget how to drink water, how to eat, everything they will forget actually. If you give them food right, they will not know that, oh, I need to take and eat. One great politician, George Fernandez. You might have heard about him, George Fernandez. George Fernandez, right? He was diagnosed with Parkinson. It's a sad yet a great politician who was very much committed to the development of the country. As a great politician. And what happened actually, as the disease became progressive, he lost all the memory. And there was some conflict among the family members that who will further take care of him, etc. There was a conflict between his brothers and his wife. This issue went to court, and judge one day he personally went there. Okay, let me just come and see what's happening to Judge Fernandez. I will ask him that who should take care of him. He went there. He spoke with him for half an hour. He came back and he told, George now is not capable of understanding whatever I'm speaking. Now court cannot take any decision. Now it is left to you to take a decision. Until his final days, right, George Fernandez, he lived in a very simple house and in a wooden chair which he used to sit, right. He is known for probity in public life. Let us conclude this before speaking about the probity in public life. See here. So the decline of catecholamine or dopamine, which are synthesized in the nerve endings near the brain, right, is responsible for aging and age-related changes. So this theory states that brain acts as a pacemaker. Brain acts as a pacemaker in deciding the aging and the senescence. There is one professor called as M.S. Kanugo of Banaras Hindu University. He gave one theory in which it is not just the one or two factors which actually leads to aging, but once when the reproductive functions are over, immediately it's not one factor. There are many factors like this which plays a role. It is not just only the pacemakers. It is not just only the error. There is a combination of many which acts on an organism, which acts as an individual, which pulls him to old age, which results in senescence and aging. Okay, but do not make things complex with all these theories, guys. Are you okay with cellular and extracellular theories? The cellular theory is right. We have genetic Hayflick limit, Hayflick theory, or this is called as genetic blueprint theory. Then we have the theories of free radical reaction, lipofuscin. Lipofuscin. Then error theories. We have a simple error theory and a error, that is error at a DNA level, and one more thing, error catastrophe theory. After that, we have extracellular theories where we have pacemaker theories. Apart from these pacemaker theories, we also have one more theory. I forgot to mention that. Let us do it now. One more extracellular theory, that is the collagen theory. So there are two mucopolysaccharides. Mucopolysaccharides. This is a chemical. Two such chemicals are there. One is a collagen and another one is clastin. One is collagen, another one is clastin. This collagen and clastin, right, these are body proteins. and these are present in the extracellular spaces. Intercellular or extracellular. Extracellular spaces. This collagen, right? Initially, this will be bound by non-covalent bonds. We know there are a number of bonds which unites molecules and atoms. We have hydrogen bonds, covalent bonds. There are a number of such bonds which unites atoms, which holds atoms together. Of all the bonds, covalent bond is the strongest bond. Initially, the collagen will be present here, 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 it will be present there, and this will be bound by non-covalent bond. Later, when we grow up, this non-covalent bond gets converted into a covalent bond. As a result, the collagen, right, it becomes a very tough material. Like lipofuscin, the collagen also clogs the intracellular spaces. As a result, it may create death to the, or it may create, or it may make a cell dysfunctional. And this results in aging. This is collagen theory. Okay, collagen theory. Okay, I hope you are comfortable with both cellular and extracellular theories of aging, senescence as well as the adolescent stage. So let us continue our discussion in the next lecture. Until then, thank you.